Betrayal. Is that the first word that comes to the mind of President Trump when he thinks of NATO? When he thinks of Canada? Let's explore that.
I think that NATO made a terrible mistake when they wouldn't send a small amount of military armament, when they wouldn't send just even acknowledge what we were doing for the world and taking on Iran.
Now, Trump just asked a absolutely brutal question. Why should the U.S. defend NATO allies if they're not showing up when it matters and when they're asked by the U.S. of A? In particular, though, I want to take a close look at Canada's reaction since the Iran war started. So far, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has had count them, 6 different positions on the Iran war, none of which sounds like they're in the foxhole with the U.S. First, he said he supports it. Then he said he opposes it. Then he said it might be illegal. Then he said we might join the war. Then he said we're definitely not joining the war. And now he's saying he might be willing to help the Americans, but only with unblocking the Strait of Hormuz. With friends like this.
But I think a tremendous mistake was when NATO just wasn't there. They just weren't there.
Trump's question isn't unfair. He's asking, is it unfair if the U.S. pours billions of dollars into protecting other countries, but they're not there when he calls?
Because we spend hundreds of billions of dollars a year on NATO, hundreds of protecting them.
That's a fair question, isn't it? What would Canada expect if it was attacked? Would it expect the U.S. to be there in a hurry, be there with jets, be there with words, be there with statements from the president? Of course they would. They take it for granted, the protection that's been given to them by the big brother, the U.S. of A.
And we would have always been there for them, but now based on their actions, I guess we don't have to be, do we?
Mark Carney has strong words. He loves to speak. He loves the sound of his own voice. Now, if adjectives and verbs were bombs and missiles, he'd have no trouble protecting the U.S. But unfortunately, they're only words. And yeah, I'm Canadian, which makes this even harder for me to ignore. Sometimes you don't appreciate what you've got till it's gone.
And we would have always been there for them, but now based on their actions, I guess we don't have to be, do we?
This is Ross McLean from the McLean Chronicles.